Hi, welcome back to another video with me, Arun Sharma. In this session, I am talking about test taking strategies and preparation strategies for the XAT exam, the XAT, which after the CAT is the most important exam in the MBA preparation calendar and is typically held in the first week of January. So in this session, I am basically talking about short-term prep strategies for the XAT. And when you talk about MBA entrance tests, you first need to realize that there are essentially two levels of MBA entrance tests. At the basic level, at the starting level, you have exams like the SNAP, the NMAT, and other exams like CMAT, MAT, and so on. Whereas at the higher level, you have exams like the CAT and the XAT. And the IFT will land somewhere between these two. The IFT exam will lie somewhere between these two, more tending towards the second one than the first one. And this I'm not talking about in terms of the quality of colleges they take you to, but I'm talking about this in the context of the quality of questions that these exams ask you. And hence, when you talk about the typical selection criteria or the selection requirement, what do you need to do to get selected or to get a high 99 plus percentile in these exams, it can also be seen in the context of percentages that you need to score. So while these exams always the 60 to 70% plus percentage, I'm talking about percentage, out of 100 marks you need to score between 60 to 70, or 300 marks you need to score around 200, 210, 220 to do well at these exams. Whereas the CAT and XAT, being the tougher kind of test that they are, would typically require somewhere between 30 to 40 to 45% marks, depending on the difficulty level of the paper, to do really well in these exams. So so if you're talking about preparing for the XAT as well as the CAT, you normally see that around 40% marks. If you do that, you will be in the higher 90 plus percentile range, maybe hitting 95, 97 percentile at least in both the CAT and the XAT, right? And sometimes XAT is even tougher than the CAT in terms of scoring levels, and you have had XAT years where even something like 30-35% score would be enough to qualify this test, right? So this is the first thing. So if you're looking at a 100-mark paper, which is what is expected in 2019, you are essentially looking at a score range of anywhere between 30 to 40. If you start hitting your 30s, 40s and 40 plus, you start getting into business. Now, when you're talking about the strategies for the XAT exam taking and XAT prep, as you know, there are 3 sections in this exam and 100 marks, actually 4 sections in this exam. The 100 marks will get divided into 26 marks for verbal ability and reading comprehension. That's the expected pattern in 2019 XAT. 22 marks for decision making and 27 questions for quantitative aptitude. And you have a further 25 questions which is for general awareness and general knowledge. So this is the pattern of the paper, and as you know, the GK section is not going to be marked at the first level of the exam. That means you will only be assessed on your GK in case you get through your written test and you're getting to the interview. That is when they consider your GK marks. Otherwise, they don't consider GK marks before the interview stage. So your GK marks come into the picture only if you have qualified for the second stage of selection. So coming back, the first thing that you need to understand about this XAT, which is different from the CAT, is that if you look at the CAT, you had 1 hour for each section. So the time division was not to be decided by you. But in the XAT, this is the first major difference. You're given 3 hours, 180 minutes, and you're asked to solve all these 4 sections, and you're free to move between whichever section you want. Now this creates an additional problem that you need to solve before you start doing this test, and that problem is, how much time should I spend on what section? So this is a question that I am often asked by people, what should be my timing for each section. And my first condition for that, or my first answer to that, is that the percentage of time you spend on each of these should go through a two-stage decision making process by itself. The first stage is that you allocate the 180 minutes directly into the percentage of time that each of these sections should have in the context of the percentage of questions they have over the 100 question paper. So if in a 100 question exam, if 26 questions are VARC, it means that 26% of your paper is VARC in terms of the marks, and hence 26% of your time should go into VARC. If 22 questions are in decision making, it means 22% of your time should go for decision making. Likewise, the quants, the suggested time is 27%, and the first level for GK, the suggested time will be 25%. Now this will be the straight line way of allocating the timing, but as you know, GK does not take so much time because there is no solving in GK. In GK you read the question, if you know the answer you do it, if you do not know it you move on, which means that the 25 questions of GK, you will have to squeeze this time down and reallocate this time into the other three sections, right? So the suggested number from my side for GK would be that you put around 10 to 12% of your time on this, which means on a 180 minute framework, my suggested would be somewhere between 18 to 20 minutes on GK at max. If you can do it faster, even better. If you squeeze it a little bit more, bring it down to 15 minutes, because the GK question does not require more than 40-45 seconds on an average to read and react to. So if you can bring it down to 15 minutes, it's the ideal thing, because then what you can do is, rather than taking this approach to your time allocation, what you can do inside the paper, and please remember the decision of the time allocation is one of the most critical aspects of your test taking and your performance inside the test. So instead of doing the straight line allocation over 100 marks, you will then do the straight line allocation over these three sections, right? So you are left now with 165 minutes because 15 minutes you used here. So that 165 minutes, you divide three sections, the best, first simplest thought is 55 minutes each, right? But then this has three questions less, and these have one question more each. And since you are spending 75 questions for 165 minutes, you're spending 165 minutes, your per minute question time is 2.2 minutes. So for the extra question, you add 2.2 minutes. For the two extra questions, you subtract 2.2 minutes each. And for the two extra questions, you add 2.2 minutes each. So what then happens is, there are three questions less in this. So you subtract 2.2 three times. So you end up with approximately a 57 to 58 minute time frame for VARC. You end up with around a 48 to 49 minute time frame for decision making, and you end up with around 60 minutes time frame for quantitative aptitude and data interpretation. So this becomes your time allocation, which is what I would suggest. And based on the paper, of course, this is your starting decision about your time allocation. You do not need to stick to it inside the exam perfectly, but you can have a plus minus 2 to 3 minutes on each of this depending on the difficulty level of the particular section. So if the English turns out to be easy and you can finish off the required numbers in 54-55 minutes, then do that and reallocate that extra time into maybe a tougher section, decision making or quantitative aptitude, which might be tougher. So this is the first point of view that I would want to tell you about XAT, and I would want you to look forward to more videos from my side. Please like the video, please subscribe to the channel, and please talk about it. Share the video as much as you want and as much as you can, and I'll come back with more on XAT in my next video in the series.